Hi everyone, today I'm going to be talking to you about addiction recovery with a family therapy approach in mind. Let's get started. So what is the problem? The problem is addiction, and according to Merriam-Webster, addiction is a compulsive, chronic, physiological, or psychological need for a habit-forming substance, behavior, or activity that has harmful effects. And these effects don't often just hurt the individual struggling with the addiction, but they often roll over to the family members and the friends and the loved ones around them. To give you an idea of the impact that addiction can have on individuals and their loved ones, I've listed the three common ones that are often talked about. The first one is drugs or alcohol. In 2017, there was a research study done that over 19 million American adults struggled with substance abuse disorder. And now this is just the adults, this isn't even including the children or the teenagers that struggle with this stuff. But we've often heard the stories of how individuals come home, they're drunk or they're high and they're angry, and they often harm the people that they love. They hurt their wives or their children, or they're caught with their substance and they're thrown in jail. So this is a very clear example that addiction to substances doesn't just harm the addict themselves, but it often, almost all the time, rolls over to the family members. Another one is pornography. Pornography is very harmful to the relationship at hand, but it can also be harmful for future relationships if people aren't currently invested in one. Pornography can give them false expectations. It can really disfigure their idea of how sex should be. It can be very expensive for most of these people that are addicted to it, and it can mess up a person's psyche and make them really mistreat the people that they love and that they should be caring for. Another one is video games. Now this is a largely debated issue. Some people think it's a bad thing, some people think it's a good thing, and I think it can be both. Sometimes video games can be used to cope with stress or to increase and improve relationships, like with friends or family. But if it's ever taken out of hand, it can become a very harmful addiction that takes up all the time and can be damaging to relationships. So this leads us to our next slide, family therapy in action. So this is a research article provided by Yu and Park, and they observed therapy done on a family with a young man that was struggling with video game addiction. Throughout the therapy process, the therapist was able to identify, number one, why he was addicted to the video games, and what the roles the family members played, and how they could change. So he found out that he was addicted because he was being bullied, and he pointed out to the family members how they played a part in him continuing this addiction and how they would have to change to make amends. In the end result, the young man was able to recover. He was able to avoid playing video games as much, and he was able to improve his relationship with his family and be more productive in life. And the family members likewise were able to change as well and to improve their family as a whole. And so that was very awesome. Another research done by Bradshaw and his colleagues was he looked at the different elements that were helpful in recovery. And specifically, he looked at hope, readiness to change, and coping skills. And for example, what he found was if a person went into recovery with higher levels of hope, and just hope itself, they would gain, throughout the process, they would gain more readiness to change and gain more coping skills. Likewise, if a person went into recovery with readiness to change, high levels of readiness to change, they would gain more levels of hope and more coping skills. But on the contrary, he found that if an individual just had coping skills and they didn't have hope or readiness to change, they wouldn't gain much of either of those throughout the process, and they wouldn't be very successful in their recovery. And so while there are very many different avenues to recovery, there are certain elements that play larger parts in success in the recovery process. And finally, we have how family members can play a part in helping an individual recover. So here we have a video by Judy Salinger. She is the founder of Lasting Recovery, which is a recovery program in San Diego, California. And she here talks about 3 different elements that family members can contribute to in helping the addict recover.
So it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. The recovery process is about talking, trusting, and feeling. And those things are difficult on both sides. Either the family members or the friends have a difficult time with those rules. And the person who has the substance abuse problem who's now free of the active portion of the disease, they still have it, but it's in remission. And they have to begin to learn how to talk because they've not been talking assertively. So they learn and work on, in treatment, a lot of assertive skills so that they can learn to identify what it is that they're feeling, really feeling without the substances, and how it is that they communicate what it is that they need and want, and how they appreciate their families. The second thing is about trusting. They have to be able to trust themselves that they're not going to use, and they also need family members to begin trusting. And that's very difficult because family members are scared. They've seen this before. The person has said they're going to stop, and then they don't, and they're unable to. So family members have a difficult time trusting as well. And then the feeling, it takes some time for the feeling just in the brain to come back for the person who has the substance abuse problem. And for others, if they don't feel emotionally safe, they're not going to let down their guard and be hurt again. So
yeah, I think Judy puts it very clearly in how family members can help by trusting the addict themselves, and to help them talk and recover those positive feelings. And lastly, there is absolutely no shame in recovery. There are a lot of different resources available. There are communities, there are groups, and of course there's family therapy. A lot of times people can recover by themselves, but it's a lot easier done when you are backed up by your loved ones and by professionals. And that is my presentation. Thank you for listening.